Mass 6996 research proposals, and this is presented in the context of quantitative research proposals. This is it shouldn't come as any surprise to you. Things are getting serious now in 6996, 6997, 6998. We're actually hopefully have a better idea about what's expected of you in terms of your research, and the first step in that is officially proposing it to me for approval. Now, remember, we're going to meet, and we may have already met by the time you watch this, but we are going to meet, or we will have met via Google Hangout. You'll have proposed verbally, three, four, possibly ideas. We'll talk it through. We'll talk about the reality of it, and whether or not the topics that you've proposed to me are even realistic. But at the end of the day, we're going to come up with a single topic, a single problem that we're going to address for your research. Well, guys, again, the first thing you have to do is propose this to me, and this is an overview of the way that this process works. So first of all, what is a research proposal? Well, guys, it's a written plan that you're going to present to me for evaluation and approval. This thing is going to be due, I think, by the Friday of finals week. So it's really important that we get on task here. Research proposal can be the most crucial step of a research process. And the reason being, it really forces you to think about what you're going to be doing and how you're going to be spending the next few months of your life. The research proposal takes the researcher's inspirations and insights and turns them into a step-by-step plan. It does that. It forces you to think about each and every step of what you're going to be doing. And most importantly, it demonstrates to me that you guys know what you're seeking to accomplish, and you've got a well laid out plan on how you're going to accomplish it. Guys, step one in the research proposal is the introduction. You're going to very thoroughly and clearly, concisely provide a statement of the problem. It's going to consist of a review of the literature, statement of your hypothesis, and the significance of the study. And we'll get into this more in just a second. Step two is to talk about the methods, talk about the participants, the methods that you're going to use for selection. Hopefully it's a random sample, but sometimes in school systems we aren't given that luxury. Talk about the instruments you're going to use, and talk about the procedures. Step number three, data analysis. This is kind of the fun part for those of us who are kind of quantitatively impressed, if you will. Talk about the data organization, how you're going to screen your data, and what statistical procedures that you're going to use. Step number four, protection of human subjects. You got to get I or B clearance. Step number five, I want a time schedule. And the time schedule is just for me to, I guess really this is all more about you and your group, but for you guys to think it through and think about the what ifs, because we want this data collected by the end of the spring semester, so we can present it and you guys can finish up in the summer. So. It's gonna force you to think about your time schedule and what happens when things go wrong. And again, we're going to talk about all this in more detail. Step number six, you gotta have your references, and that's primarily for your lit review and the examination of previous related studies. Guys, the introduction, state your problem clearly and unambiguously. That's a tough one to say for a Kentuckian. Avoid emotionally charged words or phrases. I think of research problems as kind of a statement for the numb. Don't be too sensitive. Don't be certainly don't be political. to state them, clearly and in some ways kind of vaguely. Uh, yeah, vaguely, but specific, and I'll clear that up in just a second. Link the problem to the body of information available in the field. Establish the importance. I think extremely important. And guys, at the end of the day, I think the introduction is extremely important because it provides the framework for the rest of what you're going to do. Um, it's kind of like I always say, you don't want to build a house on sand because if you do, it's going to collapse. Well, if you don't give the proposal, your entire study, a lot of thought, then you could get out here in March, April, or May and realize, oh my gosh, I didn't think about that. What am I going to do now? Well, yeah, we've got to finish this. And there could be a situation, I hope it doesn't happen, and I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure it doesn't happen, but there could be a situation where your study completely fails. Something goes wrong, something that you didn't think about. You have to tackle an extra year before you get your degree. Guys, we don't want that. And there's no better way to make sure this doesn't happen than to make you sit down, think about it, and put your thoughts on paper. It's kind of a way to hold yourself accountable. Parts of the introduction. Number 1, a statement of the problem. Number 2, a review of the literature. 3, a statement of the research hypothesis or hypotheses. And a rationale for the study. All right, guys, again, let me back up here and show you exactly what the game plan is. I'm going to go through, well, here we go. I'm going to go through each one of these, the statement of the problem, tell you what I want, review the literature, tell you what I want, and so on. All right, guys, statement of the problem. State the problem clearly and directly and state it early in the introduction. What a lot of people want to do is they want to defend what they're doing, and the problem statement gets lost in justifying the study and defending the study. Don't do that. State the problem clearly and directly, and then we'll come in shortly afterwards and address any concerns. The problem statement needs to clearly, directly imply a question about the relationship between your variables. Something very straightforward, as the purpose of this study is to examine the relationship between two variables. Number 4, the introduction needs to include a brief description of the background and the importance of the study. Why do we even care? We need to talk about that. Also, number 5, don't assume that I know much about the content. These things are presented in general to more of a broad research audience. You got to remember, we're going to be going through this together. We're going to have, unlike some researchers who go out and kind of independently of the observer or the person who's going to critique their proposal or possibly even approve it, we're going to be going through this together, so we should be able to identify problems early in the process. But anyway, don't assume that I know as much about you as the content, because there's a chance I won't, because you're going to be doing the lit review and you're going to be becoming the expert on this. State the problem so it's understood by someone who is generally sophisticated in research. I feel I'm close to that, but who is uninformed on your subject. I feel I'm close to that. Probably will be relatively uninformed on your subject. I'm uninformed on a lot of subjects, as a matter of fact. Errors that people make in introductions, first of all, providing too much background and support too early. Guys, again, appropriately state your problem, and then we'll come in and talk about the background and justification. And finally, don't assume too much. Clearly write things out. Be specific. Be clear. Be concise. But you don't have to go into so much detail that your proposal becomes boring. It's always teetering between what's too much and what's enough. Now there's a fine line there, and you're going to try to find that. Introduction, how to end your introduction, talk about your limitation, and foreshadowing of your hypothesis. So in many ways, more broadly and more specific to the parts of the research proposal, you're going to tell me what you want to do or what you're going to do. You're going to tell me how you're going to do it, and then you're going to tell me what you did. And that's kind of true more broadly and even within the sections of the introduction. The introduction, you're going to state your research you're going to provide the research statement. You're going to tell me how you're going to address it, and you follow up by telling me, again, the research statement. Next thing you're going to do is the literature review. I'm not going to go into this much because I posted a pretty lengthy literature review video. Oh, well, no, actually that one wasn't very lengthy, but I thought it was pretty good and pretty thorough. Guys, your literature review should contain no new scholarship. It reviews and presents what's currently known. Sometimes the literature review can be extensive, and if it is, focus on the lit review that's been done recently. And I think recently, somewhere from, 2006, 7, 8 on. I've seen researchers that have wanted to glorify what they're doing, and they're like, well, I'm doing something unique. There's just no literature review out there. That's not going to work. There's stuff out there. Some people have to work harder than others, but there's going to be literature out there, or you may be addressing a problem that's that you don't need to be addressing. Okay, and those are going to be things that, again, we're going to try to head off early in the process. Guys, this part can be very timely, and it can be a lot of work. So just be aware of that. State the literature that supports your research, as well as the literature that finds results contrary to what you think you'll find. And finally, keep it real. If you're finding something, if you want to address a certain area, but you go out here in the lit review and all of the, or not all, but we'll say the majority of it is findings, is coming up with results that are kind of contrary to what you think you're going to find. Don't be too open and honest. Don't throw the baby out the bathwater here. Keep the eye on the prize. But again, keep it real by showing that there's some literature out there that contradicts or found results contrary to what you think you'll find. Don't overdo it for the visiting team. Keep the home team close at heart. Guys, next thing is state your hypothesis or hypotheses. State concisely and clearly the relationship that you expect to find. The hypotheses are typically determined by the implications of the related research and deductive logic of the underlying theory. We've talked about that before. And clearly explain the link between theory and hypothesis so the reader, me, understands your motivation. Guys, talk about the significance of your study. Why does anybody care? Why is it important enough to study? And, of course, focus on the implications and applications of the results of your study. So what do I mean by that? Implications. How will the results contribute to theory and knowledge in the specific area of the problem? To what extent will the results be useful in solving problems and answering questions? And how can the results be used for future research? Think these things through in terms of potential implications for your study. Applications, how can they be applied? Will the results change anything in your field? More importantly, can the results be used or applied to help teachers, administrators, and so on in their field? Methods, this is where you will present the detail of how the study will play out. You're going to share your plan in extreme detail here. I think after the lit review, I think this is the hardest. This is really, I'm serving on a dissertation committee right now for a lady who's working on her DNR, a doctorate in nursing research, through Southeast Nova University in Florida. And she is just not a quantitative person. And for her to think this through well, not this, but for her to think through her dissertation, how it's going to play out in terms of the design and the quantitative analysis and so on and so forth, is extremely challenging for her. I think those of us that are, more quantitatively talented, if that's even something that's worthy of talking about, but I think you know what I'm talking about. I think this is easier. We can, think things through in terms of the data collection, the quantitative methods that we're going to use. So guys, in the methods part, make sure that you write this in terms of future tense. The data will be collected on 10th grade calculus students. The variables that will be collected. So again, future tense. Guys, provide an overview of the population of interest, proposed sampling procedure. Hopefully we've got random sample. If not, explain why you couldn't get a random sample and why you selected the group of individuals that you select. Talk about your proposed sample size, how you're going to collect your data, talk about your research design, and talk about the procedures. Guys, at the end of the day, methods think threefold. The overarching goal here is to think about the participants that are going to be in your study, think about the instruments that you're going to use. Are you going to use final exams? Do you think there's a reason to include a covariate, a pretest, post-test, an ACT? And what are the overarching procedures that you're going to use to achieve the goals, or at least address the goals of your project. More specifically, the participants, identify the participants that are going to be in the study. Again, talk about sample selection, talk about the potential number of participants, what the age range is probably going to be. If there's any gender issues, maybe your data is collected at an all-girls school or something like that, then that would be something that you'd want to address. Academic level, maybe you're just going to study, academic or ability level, maybe you're just going to study students who have IEPs. That needs to be talked about in the proposal, and ethnicity and so on and so forth. Example, this is just something that I either threw this one together or maybe I found this one. Actually, I did. I found this one in a book, and I kind of liked it because it well, it does what I wanted to accomplish. Okay, the children in the study attend public elementary school in southeastern United States. It looks like they're using 3 classrooms. Okay, pretend they're using 2 classrooms, grade 1 and grade 2. The children represent a variety of socioeconomic and cultural backgrounds, and a brief statement on the race of the participants. So something like that. You guys talk about the instruments. The thing that you need to get on, have on your immediate radar for this is if you're using an instrument that's established, you got to give a little bit of history, and you've got to cite reliability and validity and reliability measurements. I think this is the one I made up. The researcher will observe students' pre-recess and post-recess classroom behavior and their outdoor recess behavior daily for 2 months. No, I did not make this one up. This is one I got out of a book. A total of 4 observers blind to the purpose of the study will be used. 3 regular observers, 1 rotating observer who is going to serve as a reliability judge. And again, those are the things that I don't really expect you to come to the table knowing how to do. That's part of the process of you and your group and me going through this together. Guys, procedures. Present to me a very thorough description of the procedures in the study. Wait a minute now, what does that say? A careful description of the procedures in the study. Okay, is a basic and important requirement. I think that's obvious. Include all necessary information for replication of the study. So if someone does read your master's thesis and they're like, you know what, that's kind of cool. I'd like to replicate that instead of with calculus students at a private school in southeastern Kentucky or southeastern Ohio. I'd like to replicate this for a charter school in Minnesota. How can I replicate the study? And keep that in mind when you're looking for things to think about, things to potentially study. And guys, you got to provide a step-by-step description of how your subjects are going to be assigned to groups. And what I mean there, think experimental control group. Also think about it could be an observational study. Maybe you're just going to observe what's currently going on, and there's no manipulation or assignment of subjects. Discuss confounding variables, something that could be a potential threat to your study. Trust me, I'm gonna be on you about this one, but we'll think about those things together. But before you come to the Google Hangout session, think these things through, because the last thing we want to do is schedule Google Hangout sessions and where we kind of look at each other and like, well, I didn't think about that. I didn't think about this. I didn't think about that. Because I'm going to send you on your way and force you to think about it and then get back with me. So think about the things that could potentially threaten the results of your study. So guys, procedures, an example of the way that this could be presented. You may control for student and teacher differences by randomly assigning students and teachers to the control and experimental groups and making the time spent, physical setting, and facilities equivalent. That was actually, I think, my stuff there. It's not as fancy as the others, so it must have been mine. Discuss limitations. Is there any factor that may negatively impact the results of your study? Limitations may be, you don't have adequate sample size. You could have low power. Your samples aren't random, so the generalizability of your study to, what population are you trying to reach to? Well, is your sample representative of that population? You could have design issues. You could have a reliability, validity of a pretest. Don't be too hard on yourself here, but it's always kind of cool to, well, not cool, but it's important that you do say, okay, I got some cool stuff going on here, but, this, and this are concerns of mine. But I still think the overarching goal here outweighs my concerns. So don't be too hard on yourself. Guys, protection of human subjects. The 2 important rules here. Don't get sued. Don't put yourself in a position where you could cost your job. Number 2, really important for me, don't get me sued, and don't put me in a position that could cost me my job. Data analysis for we quantitative folks. This is kind of the fun part. We look at the data organization, and what I mean by that is list each hypothesis. Discuss the data, the variables that will be the data that will be collected, and the variables that will be evaluated, and how your data will be analyzed. Always think it through. Be efficient with tables, figures, and charts. and I'll point out how you summarize those, how you present those, and use those to make the flow of your research proposal even better. Under the statistical procedures, talk about the types of data. We have quantitative data, categorical data, nominal, ordinal, and also you want to talk about the statistical procedures that you're going to use, such as ANOVA, MANOVA, t-test. And guys, don't forget linear regression, multiple regression. In 6600, 6610, 6620, that sequence, we talk about a lot about ANOVA, MANOVA, repeated measures and things, but this 5500, 6500 that you've taken, you should know quite a bit about multiple regression. It's a very, very powerful tool in education research. So, guys, finally, schedule. Step back, think about a schedule that will convince me that you can complete your study by the end of the spring weather, or by the end of the spring weather, by the end of the spring semester. Make sure you provide a backup plan for bad weather, snow days. Make sure you account for this, because we come up next June and it's time to present your master's thesis, both orally and in writing, and you say, well, I didn't complete mine because we had a lot of snow days. I think that's not going to work. We've got to prepare for that, so when you're building your schedule, think that through. So finally, how am I going to critique your proposal? Well, guys, I'm going to use a 10-step critiquing, kind of a 10-step rubric, if you will. First thing I'm going to look at is if your problem is clearly stated, and I am 100% certain I know what you intend to do and how you intend to do it. Second thing I want to make sure is that your problem is specific and not too broad. In other words, your problem is testable, in a reasonable manner. Number three, for example, don't come to me with any longitudinal study because we don't have longitudinal time in our schedule. Number three, the problem is practical and appropriate. Number four, the study is not directly linked to another existing body of knowledge in the field. That's the part I'm probably dreading the most, is when you present this to me, I have to go out and do a very thorough search of the literature to make sure that you're just not straightforward, replicating something that's already been done. And again, it's not wrong to replicate something that's been done with your own twist, but it is wrong to complete a study that's directly linked into something that has already been kind of proven in the literature. Guys, again, the proposed design is appropriate, including the schedule and other things. Number six, you've convinced me that you've thought about possible extraneous variables and how you intend to control for them. We'll talk about that along the way. Number seven, the proposal includes operational definitions of the variables. In other words, the variables that you collect are specific to your study. I don't have general definitions. I have operational definitions, again, specific to your research project. Number eight, if you're using an instrument, make sure you provide reliability and validity measures. Number nine, the proposal needs to be presented in detail, so to permit replication. And number 10, the statistical procedure must be appropriate. So let's say that you're looking at you're comparing ACT scores across some charter schools, private schools, and public schools. And you tell me that you intend to use a Mancova design for that, then we're going to have major problems. So statistical procedures must be appropriate to what you intend to study. So guys, last words, very important words, Google Hangout. You guys are going to run into roadblocks. You're going to have questions. You got to stay in touch with each other, and you got to stay in touch with me. We've got to get these things submitted on time. I'm willing to schedule, hours upon hours of Google Hangout sessions if we need to do that. So, keep that in mind. All right, that's it.